No data is ever going to be perfect or 100%, but this is in place to weed out the invalid and disconnected numbers as best as we can. So these are phone numbers that we can verify through our dialing tool that are unreachable and disconnected.
Hey everybody, my name's Landry and you might know me from the Batch community, and we've been getting tons of questions on how to get the best and most accurate skip tracing data. So I'm super excited to break down today's topics with Jay, who I have here with me, who's an absolute expert in all things skip tracing and has been with Batch since the very beginning. We're going to be talking about how you guys can get the most accurate skip tracing information, some of the best practices you can put into play, and then when is it going to be best to use something like BatchSkipTracing or BatchLeads. And also, you guys will have chapters available below, so if there's something you want to skip to, feel free to do that. But let's go ahead and get into it. How are you doing, Jay?
I'm doing good. Thanks for having me, Landry. How are you?
Pretty good. I'm excited for today's topic because I know that personally, the people I talk to in the community, especially the ones that are getting started, have a ton of questions about how to get the best information, what lists are best, all that good stuff. So what types of people, kind of just to give a little bit of background, you're over on the batch skip tracing side of things. What type of people are you working with day in and day out?
A good amount of the people that I talk to are in real estate, whether that's the traditional or the investment side of real estate. So agents, wholesalers, mostly. But we also have roofing, solar companies, anything home service based. But I would say top three are probably real estate, solar, roofing.
What would you say makes our data stand out from the rest, as all of these different types of people are coming to uncover information with who they're looking for?
We're not the only skip tracing provider out there. Everybody knows that, right? But what we really focus on is right party contact. So just a fancy term for getting you guys the actual correct phone number. Typically your industry average, you guys are seeing anywhere from around 25 to 35%. Our skip tracing and what we do to ensure accuracy, which I'll get into, is typically going to be anywhere from around 65 to 75%. So quite a bit of a difference there. What makes our data different aside from, what we do to pull the data is our phone verification method that we run through our dialer. So for those that don't know, we have a dialer. It's a multi-line dialer, batch dialer, right? It's meant for calling. So as our users are making calls on that platform, we have a phone verification method. It's like a live feedback loop where we cross-reference the skip tracing with our dialer, and that's done to weed out the invalid and disconnected numbers as best as we can. So that's where we really separate ourselves and, what makes the data different at the end of the day.
Basically what you're saying is that people that are dialing in there and they're reaching disconnected phone numbers, for maybe the next person that skip traces that property, that phone number is not going to show up, and in reality they're going to get more enriched data over time.
Yeah, essentially. So, no data is ever going to be perfect or 100%, but this is in place to weed out the invalid and disconnected numbers as best as we can. So these are phone numbers that we can verify through our dialing tool that are unreachable and disconnected.
Yeah, and if any of you guys are wanting to learn more about kind of the cost of bad data, as batch skip tracing, Batch Service is a premium company that offers quality information. You guys can check out the link and the video that we have somewhere here on this page or down in the description to learn more about kind of the cost there and why that makes such a big difference, as well as you're trying to get accurate information. So Jay, even though we do provide such amazing quality data for people, I'm sure there's got to be things that people can do on top of that to ensure they get better results the first time when they go through and import this data, right?
Yeah, there's some common things that I see with someone who may just be starting out that, may be experiencing some roadblocks or just some obstacles, right, with skip tracing a file most of the time, right? Because we do have two different ways on batch skip tracing how you can skip trace. We have a single skip trace option where all you have to do is just type in the address and that's about it. But our bulk skip trace option will actually allow you to skip trace multiple properties at once. So I'm sure we'll be able to get this out to the folks watching this video, but I have a template that we've created. It's already in the correct format. The columns are already created for you. All you would have to do is just fill in what information you have. So at the very least, or at the very minimum, we would require a property address, city, state, and zip code to be able to yield results. But with the bulk skip trace option, it does also allow you to include a first name, last name, and a mailing address if you have it. So if you have any of those additional data points, I would recommend adding them in. And with the template that we'll be sending out, essentially you'll be able to create your own lists. I have a lot of folks that I talk to that use this template for driving for dollars. So when they're out, boots on the ground collecting addresses, they're literally just typing it into the template. And then when they're done, they can save that, upload it directly into the system. So with that being said, for those that are unaware or for those that are already using our skip tracing tool, I do want to point out, make sure that you're downloading your orders, even if it is a single skip trace. So the downloadable CSV file that we provide is where the full data report will be, meaning all the phone numbers and all the emails too. So quick little tip for you guys, make sure you're downloading your lists. Inside of the system, if you were to just click into an order, it's only going to show you a preview of what comes back. So when you download the file, you'll see there's much more information that you guys can see. So just a quick little tip for the ones that don't know.
Yeah, are you seeing that a lot when people are getting into something like batch skip tracing, that they don't even realize that they have way more additional information available?
Yeah. Typically the system will show you the first 3 phone numbers, right? But the vast majority of these will come back with at least 5 phone numbers. So, not everyone picks up on the first call. I would recommend not only doing some follow-up, but if you haven't been able to get a hold of somebody within the first 2 to 3 phone numbers and you weren't downloading your lists, I would recommend going back, starting with the ones that you haven't been able to get a hold of, and download those orders, because there's a good chance that there's more phone numbers for you guys to try. And I've had people have success with numbers 4 through 6 on like a follow-up attempt, or for the ones that are dialing through all of the numbers.
Oh, that is a really good tip, especially even focusing on those top numbers, because with our information, don't we give most to least accurate, but even going a little further past like that 5th phone number, like you said, is a good idea, it sounds like. But that's how we're typically categorizing the information for people, correct?
Yeah, they'll be categorized by accuracy. So if you weren't downloading, you were still calling the most accurate numbers. However, on a bulk level, depending on how much records you guys are running through, first 3 is usually going to get you your best bet at getting a hold of the right person. But if you have the extra time to go through and to call some of those extra numbers that, maybe you didn't get a hold of the right person within the first 3, I would say it'd be worth your time to call at least up to number 6.
Great tip. Something else that I was thinking about that I think is huge, especially for people getting started with whatever they're doing in their business. Something that I see a lot is people wondering who they should be targeting. Is there anything that you see more or less people having success with in terms of like the list to pull? Like, let's say that we're talking about people investing in real estate, kind of some of the main people that we both talk to on a day-to-day basis. What are you typically seeing people pull and having more success with than other lists, for example?
Yeah, good question. I get that question a lot, and I always make sure to let anybody know that this is my belief, right? And for those that don't know, before Batch Service was ever a property data provider, we were an investment company ourselves. So I did the acquisitions role for the company for a little under 4 years before making the full switch to our Batch products. So I was boots on the ground, making cold calls, texting, right? Doing the whole 9. So this held true back then in 2016, 2017, when we were just getting started, to present day. So the way that I see it is, when building a list or when trying to decide what list that you want to go after, I would keep in mind that usually the lists that are promoted in mentorships or YouTube or gurus, they're usually very easy to get lists. So for example, like a pre-foreclosure list, you got to keep in mind that because it's so easy to get, you'll have a lot more competition. And so I typically see an easy to get list usually oversaturated, and not my recommendation on a list to approach when just starting off. So the way that I like to view it is looking at the filters of your list as possible pain indicators or layers of motivation. So what I mean by that is, for example, a tired landlord list is usually one that I'll recommend. So a tired landlord list is going to be built up of homeowners that have owned their home for over 7 years. the home, and you can change any of these, but the home is older than 1990, and let's even throw in like an equity filter, right? Maybe 20 to 30%. A list like that you create in your own market is going to not only be unique to you, but there's going to be a lot less people targeting that list because you went and built the filters yourself. So I think someone in a tired landlord list is going to have a lot more motivation to want to hear an offer or sell than essentially going after, a pre-foreclosure list where they're maybe being called by 20 other people. Not only are they losing their home, but you're calling them from an unknown number, trying to get them, you know, to get you, or trying to get them to maybe tell you that they're losing their home, or to even tell you about their situation. So that's what I usually recommend. That's my personal opinion based on my own experience and with talking to folks in the industry for the last 6 years.
Wow. Yeah. I really love what you said about the kind of the motivating factors and everything. It really is like painting a picture. Every time I put filters down and pull lists like within BatchLeads that we'll kind of break down for you guys here in a second as well, it really is like painting the picture of the type of situation that somebody might be in. If you're just using these broad lists that everybody's pulling, it's not going to be crazy to see maybe a little less success compared to these more custom lists where people are getting not so many calls one after the other because it's not right there in front of everybody's face to pull. It's not as apparent. So I love that, kind of putting those together, those motivating factors. I think that's a good thing to remember as any of you guys, if you are practicing building your own list, to think about what could motivate this type of person if I were to pull this list to maybe accept an offer. So I love that. So all this talk about different lists to pull and motivating factors and things like that has me thinking a lot about BatchLeads. One of our topics for today is kind of breaking down the differences a little bit and when somebody might use one or the other. Something with BatchLeads, if anybody's curious and you're not familiar with that, it is a software that you can essentially generate leads. You can do that through driving for dollars through your software. You can do it through pulling lists, kind of like how Jay and I are talking about this as well. And you can also do your own skip tracing just built right within the system, which is really nice. And it includes some free monthly skip traces, just different amounts depending on the plan, which is pretty cool. There's also marketing tools like direct mail. The list goes on. It's pretty cool. But what would you say, Jay, don't we have the same data within both softwares like BatchLeads and BatchSkipTracing?
Yeah, in terms of skip tracing, yes. Yeah, the data will be the same on batch skip tracing as it is on BatchLeads. BatchLeads is obviously going to have a lot more coverage on property details, loan information, anything that you can pull on any like major listing service. We're going to be able to tell you about a certain property. So batch skip tracing, I want to be clear that it's really meant for uncovering contact information. Now, you'll have a file history, so you can always have a place to, store your list. You can always go back and re-download old lists, but there's no data management aspect to it. So it won't be able to store, your lists or your leads the same way that BatchLeads or a CRM would be able to do. So with BatchLeads, you had mentioned it, right? It's meant to be used as an all-in-one platform. So there's quite a bit of bells and whistles in the system, but ultimately it's going to offer an all-in-one feel to your operation, your business. So, you had alluded to the lead generation. We had talked about building your own lists. BatchLeads is going to give you the ability to pull lists. There's included skip tracing credits. So after you're done pulling the list, you can skip trace it right then and there. And, we can talk all day about the other features that it has, but really it boils down to what you need. I see a lot of people who are using and paying for multiple services that they're able to consolidate their tech stack using BatchLeads because there's so many different things that you can do with it versus batch skip tracing. If you're already comfortable with your tools, I always say if it ain't broke, don't fix it, right? If you just need the skip tracing contact information, we have that. It's available through batch skip tracing. But obviously, at the end of the day, we do have the ability to help really any sort of solution. So that's kind of the main difference, I would say. If you're looking at BatchLeads, just know there's a lot more that it can do than batch skip tracing. But if you just need the skip tracing, batch skip tracing has a great pay-as-you-go model.
Yeah, I love that because that's something to keep in mind too that a lot of people don't realize at first glance anyway, or just not knowing unless you happen to have an account in both, is that batch skip tracing, you're just paying for your files that you're skip tracing or for those hits on your info. But over in BatchLeads, as it has all these bells and whistles like Jay is referring to, it is a subscription monthly as well. So that's something to keep in mind if people are looking for something like that all-in-one tool to help you guys generate the data, organize it, and do something with it and get great skip tracing data in the process, then great. But if you're just, needing some awesome data on top of what you maybe already have going on that's working well for you, that's where something like batch skip tracing comes into play. Cool. Well, thanks for hopping on here with me today, Jay. Is there anything else coming to mind that people should know?
Thank you for having me once again. Yes, so you guys can find me in the community. If you guys haven't joined the community, we've got a community. It's hosted on Slack. It's completely free. There's, I think, over 2,000 people in it that are all kind of... Oh, okay, 4. I'm way behind. Okay, there's over 4,000 people in it. I constantly refer people to the community because there's constantly people sharing deals that they got, lists that's been working for them, right? So if you're new, I recommend joining the community. It's a great place to drop a status, introduce yourself, and I guarantee there's going to be people that reach out to you willing to help. So shoot me a DM on the Slack community if you guys have any questions or want to get a hold of me personally. Otherwise, we'll put the support details in the description down below. But yeah, thank you guys for having me.
As always, if you guys have questions, you can absolutely reach out in the community, connect with amazing people, drop a comment down below, and subscribe to our channel. And then if you are newer to our products or you're just exploring, you can go down in our description and we have links for BatchLeads, batch skip tracing, just depending on what your guys' needs are. But until then, we will see you guys on the next episode.